Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into what high school and college students should do for volunteering. My guest today is Rob Howland. He's the Executive Director for the National Junior Tennis and Learning of Trenton. And welcome to the show.
Thanks, Anthony.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah. So usually I start my guests out where they went to college. So where did you go?
I actually started my college career at the College of New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Was a student athlete growing up, pretty good tennis player in high school at Steinert and Hamilton. And it was an interesting process selecting where I wanted to go to school.
And how early does the process start when
I
you
was,
went to high school?
I was fortunate because my parents were pretty involved with the selection process.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably started when I was a freshman, looking or thinking about where I wanted to go.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Did you have a lot of schools to pick from?
I used the student athlete marketing service to send emails out to market me to a bunch of different schools. So I was getting recruited by a lot of places.
Really?
Yeah.
So you ended up the NJTL.
TCNJ.
TCNJ. Yes.
Yeah.
So you ended up at TCNJ, and how well did you do there?
I did pretty well. I was an All-American. Won a couple of the regional, they used to call them Rolex. Rolex was the major sponsor, so they called them the regional Rolex tournaments. Oh. It was a Division III program, but tennis is odd like that because there's a lot of disparity between, there isn't a lot of disparity between Division I and Division III schools, unless it's like a Stanford, for example, right? A very top program. But I ended up top 5 in the country a couple of years in singles, and so I had a good career, and it was good to me because it kept me focused.
Do they have a NCAA tournament for tennis at the college level?
That's what the NCAA tournament was, the Rolex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So you're in the top 5 in the country. So did you go on after college to do this professionally as well?
I wasn't that good.
Oh, okay.
Tennis is hard, to make it on the professional tour, but, I wish maybe I would have tried to play a couple tournaments, but you have to be 6'5" and real lanky, almost like a basketball player these days to make it. So
really?
Yeah.
So a lot of parents talk about, college sports take up a lot of their time for schooling. What do you say about that when you went to school?
In college, you mean just the rigors of the athletic program?
Yeah.
I would say it was challenging because of the practice schedule and the travel schedule, but it was also helpful with time management because there was really not an opportunity to goof around. Mm-hmm. So in that way, I would say it was beneficial. It kind of gives you discipline and is a good tool and kind of training for professional job life in the future.
I got you.
So it was good for me. I don't think it's good for everyone, but it worked for me.
Great. So now you graduated from college. So how did you get involved into the NJTL of Trenton and become the executive director there?
It's a weird story. I actually started as a freshman in college. I was looking for summer employment. Our executive director at the time was looking for coaches. Went around to local colleges, recruited me, and I just started working there. And I did that every summer through college. And ended up going to graduate school. I took a year off after I graduated college, undergrad, went to graduate school, studied abroad, but I always came back and I always worked at NJTL.
Wow.
And so it was a progression. The organization grew and I grew along with the organization. Finished graduate school, decided I didn't want to work for the State Department, which is what I was going to school for, and wanted to do something in the local community, and it just so happened the organization received a grant to hire a development person.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I became a full-time employee.
So you started out in development?
Yes.
Okay. And then how long did it take you to get to become where you are now?
It was about 5 years, and when we started, the organization was a lot smaller than it was, but we added staff added capacity, the number of kids that we served, the amount of funds that we were raising to serve those kids.
Right.
It was a kind of on-the-job training. When I started in 2008 full-time, we didn't have an office. So to see the progression, to see the organization grow to where it is today, to be the lead the organization now, it's been really nice to be on that train.
So tell the parents out there, what does the NJTL of Trenton do?
National Junior Tennis and Learning of Trenton strengthens the character and enhances the lives of over 2,700 kids by providing opportunities and instruction through tennis education and nutrition.
Okay.
And so that mission is really built on the ideals of the founder of the national organization, Arthur Ashe.
Okay.
So everyone knows Arthur Ashe. He was a humanitarian, famous tennis player. But he really wanted to start this kind of network nationwide to help uplift kids and use tennis as a hook to engage them.
Yeah.
And also, you know, he wasn't really keen on developing the next Grand Slam champion, but he wanted to use the sport as a way to get kids into school and provide some of the, you know, life lessons and discipline that the sport gives you.
Now, do they take any kid that wants to play tennis, or?
In our program?
Yeah.
Our core area is really Trenton, but we work in neighboring communities in Ewing, Lawrenceville, Hamilton.
Okay.
But most of our kids are in Trenton. Most of our after-school programs are in the Trenton Public Schools.
Okay. Now, so you become the executive director there. What is the position? How does it, you know, take fold? What do you do on a daily basis in this position?
The executive director is basically responsible for managing the staff and the operations of the organization.
Okay.
Making sure that there's a funding stream to fund all the things that we're doing. So that includes fundraising events, grant writing, you name it, you know, as a way to generate revenue to sustain what we do. It's very multifaceted. It's really hard for me to kind of explain it in a couple sentences, but it's everything, you know, to just make sure that the organization is continuing in the right direction, continuing to grow, sustain, serve more kids. Our organization is governed by a board of 18 people. They're very supportive, a lot of them from the local Princeton community, Albert Stark, Stark and Stark, Ginny Mason, you know, countless others. But we are really all about continuous quality improvement.
Great.
Which, you know, you have to always review everything with a fine-tooth comb, make sure you're always try to do things better all the time.
So now, as a high school student that's out there, or a college student, and they want to get involved in volunteering, how does one get involved in that type of environment?
I think it's really important for the younger generation to give back. I think that's something that has been lost in the United States. That's just my opinion. But there's no reason why high school students can't get involved. Mercer County has the greatest saturation of nonprofits in the state of New Jersey.
Really?
So the easiest way is to find an organization that you have an interest in, right? Because passion drives success.
Right.
So if you're interested in a sport, find an organization like NJTL that, you know, uses tennis to help kids, or it could be anything. It could be the YMCA or the CYO, whatever you want to support. Go to their website, and if you know, they usually have a volunteer button. So that's the easiest way. Some organizations don't, call and just ask, how can you volunteer? So it's very easy, and most organizations are willing to provide a letter. There's a lot of students, high school students, college students need letters showing their service hours. So,
and how many hours do they usually take?
It just depends on the student. Some organizations have very strict requirements about, you know, minimum volunteer hours. Others are more lax or more flexible. So it really just depends on the specific organization.
Really?
And usually they offer a menu. At least NJTL of Trenton offers a menu of things, you know, of volunteer opportunities. It could be one-off events. It could be ongoing programs, fundraising events. So there's a lot of different options.
So what are some of the volunteer events or things that they can do at let's say, the NJTL?
Well, we have so many programs that run year-round. So, for example, we have a PE program, tennis during the school day, in the Trenton Public School District. All of those programs, all of the kids in those programs play in an event at the end of April called the Trenton Short Courts. We need kids to help, volunteers to help keep track of the score. They're kind of team captains. They lead the different teams representing all the schools around. So that's one example. Ongoing programs, in the evenings or the afternoons at different tennis facilities throughout Mercer County. Fundraising events, so there's a lot of different options.
So does it matter what the student is playing in high school? They don't have to be just a tennis player. They could be anything, right?
We have a little bit of an orientation, and I think it's important to find the match or the interest that the high school student has, and then kind of match them to the activity that you think would work best. So that's kind of how it works.
So what's the process that a high school student or a college student does to get to volunteering? Just going on the website?
I would recommend going onto the organization. First, find your interest. Find the organization that you think you have an interest in. Go to their website, see what they do, click on the volunteer button, and then I would call the office. Most organizations have some type of background check required, especially if you're working with children. Most organizations, NJTL does, actually covers the cost of that. So that's something to consider as part of the process. And if the organization has a good framework for their volunteers, they would have something in place, I would say, in less than a month. So from the time that you contact the organization, you should be placed and volunteering on a regular basis in less than a month. I think that's a reasonable time frame.
So within that time frame, the background check and things like that, students just doing their daily routine. They don't have to do anything special other than waiting for a background check and saying yes, I'm ready to go, or anything like that, right?
I think that every organization handles their volunteers differently. So it may be that some require a statement as to why you want to volunteer, so something may need to be typed up. Others are maybe a little bit more flexible. They may conduct an interview. For example, Big Brothers Big Sisters of Mercer County, that's a kind of a different type of volunteering, and I think it requires a lot more training. So I think it just depends on the organization. But if you do your research, all of those things should be readily accessible.
So the amount of time, do you know how much time like a high school student usually has to do in volunteering, or a college student? Is there a maximum amount?
I think the volunteer time depends on the school district or the college. But I would strongly encourage high school students, college students to use it. I mean, it's a professional development thing. There's not only there's a lot of long-term career development opportunities when you volunteer. It doesn't have to be on the court or on the soccer field or on the basketball court. It could be in the office. It could be, there's, for example, if somebody wants to be an attorney, there's all sorts of nonprofit organizations that help underserved folks with legal matters.
Really?
So that could be another avenue for them to develop future career ambitions and see where their interests lie.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So what other types of organizations are out there that you might be able to tell some of the families that, what kind of career paths can kids take by volunteering at an organization like NJTL?
Nonprofit career work is kind of endless. I mean, universities are nonprofits, hospitals are nonprofits. And then there's the kind of social service organizations like NJTL, like Boys and Girls Club, Big Brothers Big Sisters, all those types of things. So I think find your niche, find that, like I said, the interest that kind of stokes your passion and what you want to do, and investigate it. And if it's not, you never know what you really want until you actually have that hands-on experience. So I would just highly encourage, do your research.
So what, by volunteering, what benefits does the high school student get or the college student get from volunteering?
Well, first and foremost, they're giving back to a worthy cause.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, it's a resume builder. It's a networking opportunity. You never know who you're going to meet while you're volunteering. Organizations, especially in Mercer County, have a deep donor network of connected philanthropic individuals, and you just never know how that's going to open a door in the future.
So this is a benefit to the high school students and college students that maybe want to get a job afterwards.
Absolutely.
So it's not just volunteering that they're looking at, it's their own lives that they're trying to build up.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. And you just never know who you meet, how that person can help you down the road. My tennis coach in college, our program staff just had a meeting with them. The tennis coach at the College of New Jersey had a meeting with them last week, and some of their students are going to be helping out in our programs.
Really?
Yeah.
So now, are a lot of the programs in the area that they do similar things? Like College of New Jersey, you said. Does Princeton University do it? Does Rider University do it?
NJTL actually has a partnership with Princeton University with their PACE Center, which is their Student Volunteer and Activism Center, I believe is what it stands for. And so they're currently doing college prep for our NJTL kids, identifying schools, helping them with their college essays, some of their financial aid forms. For example, Rider University and TCNJ, they have the Bonner Center, which is kind of a volunteer outreach, required community service hours. When I was at the College of New Jersey, my first volunteer experience was building homes for Habitat for Humanity in Trenton off of North Clinton Avenue, and it was a requirement.
Oh my God.
So I was welding pipes in these homes that were being built, and putting up drywall and doing a bunch of other stuff, and it was a way to bond with fellow classmates, and also it was just kind of a nice.
Now, did you know anything about that, or did they teach you how to do that?
They had folks from some of the local hardware stores kind of there on site to train and show, as you go.
Really?
Yeah.
So does that happen at a lot of the volunteer work that all kids do? I mean, maybe I'm not a tennis player, but do you teach the kids that are volunteering how to play tennis?
I think in NJTL's wheelhouse, we don't have the capacity, to do that. So we look for people that kind of already have those skill sets, and then place them where we think they would work best. But an athlete is an athlete. You can people are trainable. You can train folks to do different things. So I mean, it's just for our particular organization. We look for people that already have those skill sets.
Yeah, that's great. So now, as the executive director, if someone is out there and wants to donate to your organization, what's the process? What do they do to do that?
They should visit our website, which is www.njtloftrenton.org, and there's a Donate Now button on the homepage. So that's a very easy way. If they want to learn more about what we do, we encourage potential donors to contact the office and schedule a tour of our programs, because you can see it in a brochure, you can hear it over the phone, but until you actually see it in person, it just doesn't have the same impact. It's not, our organization, a lot of what we do happens off the court. The court piece of what we do is just the hook.
Yeah.
So it's really about developing the whole child.
So you said you do some type of tour. Do a lot of organizations do tours of where they work and things like that?
I think if they're smart fundraisers, they do. I think if they want to recruit new folks to support their organization, I think that's the best way. And you need to spend time with people, and you need to show them how passionate you are about the work that you do.
Yeah.
And I think, that one-on-one kind of in-person time really shows how genuine you are. And if you're going to ask somebody for money, you better be serious about what you're doing.
Yeah, and it all comes down to just helping the kids. It's really
Absolutely.
coming down to that, right? Do a lot of organizations, are they pretty much all focused on kids, or is there a lot of volunteer things out there doing other things other than just, for the kids?
I think there's so many. There's actually an organization that's great, I forgot to mention. It's called Volunteer Connect, and they're based in Mercer County, and you can go to their website, just Google Volunteer Connect, and they have a whole listing of organizations and all, like it's almost like a search engine for volunteering.
Really?
Which is a great resource. But back to your question, I think that there's so many different things, so many different age groups. Sometimes seniors want to work with seniors, people retire, and they don't want to work with kids. They want to work with people in their own age group. So I think there's the whole gamut of opportunities.
So it doesn't have to be limited to high school students or college students. It could be anyone at any age that wants to give back and help out communities. It comes down to that.
Absolutely. A community or a cause. If you have a family member that, the ALS thing or Alzheimer's walks, or, there's so many different causes that, interest people.
Yeah.
So
it's very, very interesting, the whole concept of it. So that's how you really got involved. You were passionate about tennis and got involved in that.
yeah.
Could you tell the audience what was your experience when you first got there?
At NJTL?
Yeah.
My first experience was teaching tennis in the summer at Trenton Central High School on the tennis courts. And I was fortunate because I grew up in the suburbs in Hamilton, but my grandfather was the battalion fire chief in Trenton. So I spent a lot of time in Trenton. So I wasn't, I was very comfortable with my surroundings and the sport. I saw the kids and how much fun they were having. So it was really, from the day that I started, I really enjoyed the work.
Yeah.
And it was a way for me to do something that I love, and it was a summer job. So it was great all the way around.
So do you get paid for summer jobs? Is that something that happens as well?
At the time I did.
Really?
Yeah. I had a summer job teaching tennis, and it worked out.
So this was on top of your summer job? Or was it
That was my summer job.
It was?
Yeah.
So the NJTL pays sometimes, or it doesn't pay?
Now the NJTL hires directly from our programs.
Oh.
So 60% of our teaching staff are former participants.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Back
fantastic.
then, when we weren't so large, I think the organization was just looking to find instructors, just from anywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you're helping out all of these students. Do a lot of them go on to the college level and play tennis at the college level?
Our goal for one particular program that we have, it's called our ASH Elite Student Athlete Program, is to create a pathway for kids from 3rd grade to 12th grade. And so that by the time that they've reached 12th grade, they've had a whole host of opportunities: academic enrichment, mentoring, the college prep from Princeton University, and that hopefully by the time that they've reached a senior in high school, that they've received all of these benefits. They've performed in the classroom, on the court, and then using the expertise of organizations like Athletic Resource to leverage those connections to help get them scholarships. So the short answer is yes, we've had success. We had the former Trenton High School senior class president, played number 1 on the tennis team there, started with us when she was 9, and she just got a full ride to Fairleigh Dickinson.
Wow,
So,
fantastic.
yeah.
That is great. So we're coming to the end of our show. What can you tell the parents that are out there listening and watching what's the process that they would have to take for their sons or daughters to go on to college and play at the college level, volunteer for your organization, volunteer for any organization that's out there? What type of process do you want to give, or what kind of advice do you want to give to the parents?
If you're a student athlete, I think by the time that you're a freshman or a sophomore in high school, you should decide which track you want to take. Make sure that all of your T's are crossed and I's are dotted in terms of the paperwork, the FAFSA forms, the SAT prep, all of that stuff, and start really early identifying which colleges would be a fit for you. I would recommend looking into student athlete marketing services like Athletic Resource Foundation or the Athletic Resource Company. They can be a tool to get tons of scholarship money. So that, in terms of the college process, that's what I would say. I'd utilize the high school counselors in your school district to assist. In terms of volunteerism, like I said, just do your research, visit organization websites. Volunteer Connect is a great resource. And sometimes the school districts actually have initiatives that they run too. So check with your local school district and see, what volunteer opportunities they have or partnerships.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Sure, no problem. And you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva.